Is it possible to memorize a presentation word for word? Yes. Is it practical? Not for most of us. Stay tuned on Moxie Talk. We are going to discuss how to memorize and rehearse for your next on-camera appearance. Hey everyone, I'm Fia Fastbinder and welcome to Moxie Talk, where we help you find your voice, share your message, and lead with confidence. Today we are discussing the ins and outs of rehearsing on camera. Now, firm believers here at Moxie that we can rehearse anything. So if you want to know how to rehearse something other than an on-camera appearance or something more in depth about just the rehearsal process and how to rehearse and why to rehearse, check out my prior videos on the principles of rehearsal, how to do it, why to do it, when to do it, etc. Today we're talking about on-camera rehearsals. So when we speak about rehearsal, we inevitably get asked here at Moxie, how do I memorize, or what do I memorize? Because the first step of rehearsing anything is memorizing it, right? That's where most of you stop. But let's talk about how to memorize in a way that's not going to make you crazy, not going to make you bored with the sound of your own voice, and make sure that you give a confident presentation with a logical narrative arc. The presentation that you planned out in your head is the one that you give. Now, being able to recite your presentation verbatim will actually distract from your message and detract from the quality of it, because it's the same reason that having a manuscript presentation would take the quality down a notch. A manuscript adds the extra workload of getting every single word right. As actors, you need to make sure you get every single word right because you're playing a character that was written by a playwright. But when you are a speaker, you do not need to memorize verbatim. It's not important that you give every single word the same to your audience every time you deliver it. So unless you're an actor, it's an important mindset switch to, instead of thinking the quality of my presentation depends on me memorizing verbatim, instead think the quality of my presentation relies on how I can memorize the journey. Here's a way to think of this. Now, most people, when you give driving directions, you don't give every single house, street, dog, street sign, building. You just give significant landmarks, right? Critical junctures, where they need to turn, street names. Most people find this a great way to get directions to any journey. This is the same with memorizing a presentation. We're memorizing the journey, meaning we're memorizing the major stops along the way, but not every pothole and every speed bump. You're going to save your time and energy if you think of memorizing an outline. So the main talking points of your presentation. This way, you'll still make sure that everything comes out in the order you want it, when you want it, the same length you want it, but you're going to keep it interesting for yourself because you're not so hung up on the precise word choice. So if you're thinking about memorizing, think major sections of your presentation and then the talking points behind, underneath those. But let it come out slightly differently every time. Now, there is a good reason for rehearse. In fact, there's a million good reasons for rehearsal. I want to touch on some of my favorite. The most important reason to rehearse is certainty. Now, let's face it, you've heard me say this a million times. Things go wrong in presentations. And if you are not sure what's going to happen next, whether that's I'm not sure what comes next in my presentation, I'm not sure what slide comes next in my presentation, I'm not sure how the audience is going to relate to that, or what tech things are going to happen, you are going to spend your entire presentation anxious about what's going to happen next. But rehearsal erases so much of this anxiety because you know what happens next. It seems so obvious. But when you rehearse something and then you get up to deliver it, whether it's on camera or off, it is not the first time you've given that presentation. It's the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time. It's just the first time in front of that audience. And you will absolutely feel that way. You will feel the confidence because you know what comes next. People that say, oh, I'm better when I wing it up there. Yeah, that's like saying actors are better when they don't rehearse. Can you imagine going to see a Broadway play where the actors are like, I don't need to rehearse. I'm just better when I wing it. Or Cirque du Soleil, tightrope walkers. So jazz musicians, you might not know this, but jazz musicians actually only memorize the major chords of any piece. And then they leave the rest for improvisation when they're up there with their fellow musicians. And I love this analogy for rehearsal. We memorize the major parts, and then the rest can kind of come out the way it's supposed to come out, depending on, what you're feeling from that audience, or if you're feeling like telling another story, or you're reacting to something that happened in the moment. But rehearsal is crucial to make sure everybody feels confident with their message. If you're not sure how to rehearse or not sure how it's coming off, it's important that you get help. There is no substitution for feedback. And it's one thing to, think about how you're doing it in your head or feel like you know how it's going. It's a whole nother thing to get feedback on how it's actually going. And in the spirit of you can rehearse anything, with anything on camera, it's pretty easy to rehearse because you can just start the camera, record yourself, and then watch it back. There you go. You have feedback from yourself. I highly recommend also getting feedback from somebody else, somebody that's going to be akin to your audience, somebody whose advice you trust. And if you're working with tech, which happens with most of us that are doing on-camera work or virtual work, make sure to rehearse with the tech ahead of time. You don't want to find out that your poll is not loading, or that your camera isn't working, or that your internet isn't stable, or that you don't know how to open the chat room. All of these things you do not want to find out live in front of your audience. So rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. I have a mantra, which is breathe, practice, repeat. And again, if you want to understand more and unpack the art and science of rehearsal more, check out some of my other videos. Now, we've talked about rehearsal really helping to calm you down. There are other techniques aside from rehearsal that will really calm you down. And one step is that to understand that your mind and your body are really connected, especially when it comes to anxiety. There are methods to calm our minds down. There are methods to calm our bodies down, but calming yourself before you go live on camera or off is something that every actor, news anchor, speaker, TED speaker knows how to do, because every camera appearance is like something new. You're not sure exactly what's going to happen. So making sure that you're calm, grounded in the present moment, and making sure that you can react to any of these changes that happen, whether it's a tech problem that happens or an unexpected question from your audience, is crucial. I really do want to make sure I give you as much information and as many tools in your speaker toolbox as possible. So if you're interested in learning more about how to relax and how to calm and focus and ground yourself before any speaking appearance, I have a couple videos on that too that I would highly recommend that you check out. We're going to touch on, in this video, how to relax your body and how to relax your mind. Because like I said before, there's such a connection between your mind and your body, and especially when it comes to anxiety and reducing anxiety. And so making sure that you know how to do this is like the holy grail for public speakers. It's the holy grail for Broadway performers. Even soldiers in battle now learn how to relax their body. And the key to doing this is diaphragmatic breathing. It really is such a powerful tool to calm and focus yourself. And it is true that they are now teaching it to soldiers in boot camps, because all you need is your body. So if you are on a stage or on a, in the middle of battle, this is a great tool to really help you reduce anxiety, make sure that you're able to stay in the present moment. And I really believe that your diaphragm and diaphragmatic breathing is your power tool for public speaking, because it does so much, not only for our physiological states and how we reduce anxiety, but also our psychological states. So just by learning to use your diaphragm and incorporate it into your speaking, you will not only make sure that you are calm, focused, relaxed, present, but you'll also have this powerful voice that commands the room, even the virtual room. And again, I'm going to say I have some other videos on diaphragmatic breathing, because I really I firmly believe in it. In fact, when I teach clients, the first thing I do when I have an anxious speaker is teach them how to breathe, because it is so crucial and so integral to everything we do in order to be confident on stage. Now, I'm just going to touch on it now. And if this doesn't come easily to you, just know you can watch some of my other videos. But yogis used to call diaphragmatic breathing pot-shaped breathing. I call it belly breathing or balloon breathing, because what you're doing, you're not really breathing from your belly. You're incorporating your diaphragm. But when you do that, your belly sticks out as if there's a balloon in it. And instead of breathing up and down, which is vertical breathing, which is what we do when we get nervous, we breathe in and out, which is horizontal breathing, like there's a balloon filling up in our belly. And when we do this, when we incorporate our diaphragm and expand our rib cage and push out our bellies, phenomenal things happen. The first phenomenal thing that happens is we flood our body with extra oxygen. And this in turn increases our blood oxygen level, which lowers our heart rate. That is why they are teaching it to soldiers that are going into war, because it literally will lower your heart rate. The other phenomenal thing about this is when you start to breathe horizontally and take what I call low and slow breaths, you activate your vagal nerve. And your vagal nerve is the nerve that tells your body whether it should go into fight or flight or rest and digest. So simply by taking those big, deep diaphragmatic breaths, you tell your body, oh, there's nothing going on here. There's nothing to be stressed about. I can calm down. I can release some great hormones like serotonin and dopamine. So just by doing this, even if you are in a stressful situation, like about to speak in a high stakes presentation, you can make sure your body thinks you're about to go to sleep, that you're on the beach, that you're in a yoga class. So diaphragmatic breathing is really crucial to making sure that you can calm yourself, focus yourself, and stay in the present moment for your audience. So before I jump to how to relax your mind, the last thing I want to say is that you need to make sure, if you don't know how to do diaphragmatic breathing, that you watch my videos on how to do it. Because if you do it wrong, it's really not going to work for you. And I've had so many speakers that have been like, I don't know why this is not working. And then I watch them breathe and they're either holding their breath or they're still taking those shallow chest breaths. Last thing around diaphragmatic breathing and calming down your body is a lot of times people think that what they should be doing before a presentation is like some kind of like calming yoga. But really, honestly, when you get flooded with adrenaline because your body is starting to go into fight or flight, you might want to think about doing some jumping jacks or some push-ups or some running around the block. I actually do a shakedown with my clients to get all that extra adrenaline out of their body. The last thing you want to do is sit there and just allow the adrenaline to build up in your nervous system and keep telling yourself, I'm just going to be calm, and then try to go out and deliver a natural presentation. In fact, you'll probably end up being very Frankenstein-like, because when fight or flight hits our body, we're meant to run and flee or fight, not stand, still on a stage or in front of a camera. So if you don't do what you need to do to get all that excess energy out of your body, you are going to freeze on camera. So breathing and making sure you're doing something to, get your adrenaline out of your body, get all your fighting and fleeing done before you go on camera. So we touched on breathing and physicality to make sure that our bodies are nice and calm and focused. Now let's talk a little bit about how to calm and focus our mind and how to use mindset to work for us. My favorite technique of all time is visualization. Now, the point of visualization is that it is really rehearsal for your mind. Your brain does not know the difference between doing something and visualizing something. It responds the same way to whether you're actually doing it or visualizing it. And in fact, it actually travels the same neural pathways if you visualize it or if you do it. So visualizing is a great way to trick your brain to a mind hack to make sure that you can give a stellar presentation. Simply by visualizing yourself giving a confident presentation, you are 90% more likely to actually give a confident presentation because you are rewiring your brain. You are creating a new roadmap in your brain of a successful experience with public speaking. And in fact, this is why so many athletes and so many public figures and so many speakers rely on the power of visualization. And I know this works. I do this for myself. I do it with my clients. If you can visualize yourself and get as specific as possible doing that successful on-camera appearance, I can guarantee you that when you get up to that successful on-camera experience, you're going to feel so much more confident. The last technique I want to give you as far as mind-body connection is this idea of relabeling our emotions. So actually, you might not have thought of this, but the symptoms or your body's response to fight or flight and excitement is actually exactly the same. Think about it. If you're about to go on a roller coaster, those feelings you're feeling are the same. The excitement and the fight or flight symptoms are the same, and they're heart beating fast, tingling in our fingers, butterflies in our stomachs, maybe a little bit of dry mouth. All of these feelings are actually the same. What happens to us is that when we feel those feelings of fight or flight when we're about to give a presentation, most of us label them as bad. And there is a psychological technique, and it's actually called emotional reframing, which means that instead of saying to yourself, I'm nervous, you can say to yourself, I'm excited. And when you feel those feelings of nerves, you can say to yourself something like, oh, those feelings are there to help fuel my presentation, to help make sure I do a good job. And I'm really excited about this. And it actually works. This is positive psychology. Now, you have to believe it. It won't work if you don't believe it. So if you say to yourself something all kumbaya, like, I'm just really excited, that's not going to work. You have to actually find something about that presentation that you are really excited about. I'm excited to get in front of senior leadership. I'm excited to show them the solution I've been working on. I'm excited to have a chance to present my ideas. Whatever, one thing that you are really excited about, truly excited about. And when you start to feel those feelings of pre-presentation jitters, instead of saying to yourself, oh, I'm so nervous, I'm just going to calm down, say, oh, I feel those sensations. I'm starting to feel excited. And actually, there was a study they did with Olympic athletes where they looked at what they said in interviews before they went into their Olympic events. And do you know not one of those Olympic athletes said, I'm nervous? You know, they always are asked by reporters, oh, how are you feeling before you do this? And they always say they're excited. Of course they're nervous, but they've learned the sports psychology technique of relabeling or reframing those same feelings as excited. And my favorite study done on this is they took a group of participants, they split them in half, and they had both groups do anxiety inducing activities. They had to sing karaoke, which gives most of us anxiety, do increasingly difficult math problems under time, and then they had to read a script with an audience in front of them, read a script off a teleprompter with an audience in front of them. And in both of those situations, same tasks, the groups were told, one group was told to say over and over and over in their head, I'm calm. The other group was said over and over and over in their head, I'm excited. Which group did better? The group that said, I'm excited. Because we know that the feelings are the same, but if you use positive psychology to reframe it, you're much more likely to have a better outcome. And telling yourself, I'm calm, doesn't work. If you're starting to feel those feelings, reframe it, do your breathing, do your physical activities, and you're much more likely to have a great performance, whether it's a karaoke performance, an Olympic performance, or even just speaking on camera. So I'm going to leave you with this. Many of you might not know how many people are watching while you speak if you're speaking in the camera like me, and you don't know how many more people will watch the recording if you're speaking like me. And I know that can cause anxiety outside of your ability to control it. But there's a lot you can control. And I'm hoping that these 3 simple techniques that I give you today will help you look like a rock star in front of the camera. If you like this video, if you feel like there's somebody that you know that could really benefit from some breathing techniques or some anxiety reducing techniques, please feel free to share this video and like it, subscribe to our channel. If you want to know more about the work we do here at Moxie, check out moxieinstitute.com, and I will see you next time.